Hello there everyone in YouTube land, UXW Bill here once again with yet another vehicle update video. The majority of this video is going to be spent talking about our newly repaired 1998 Ford F-150 pickup truck. Also going to take it out and drive it a little bit for your viewing pleasure. But before I get to that, the last video update I made concerning all of our vehicles produced an awful lot of questions about just where the big brown piece of junk and the Pontiac are. Well, the big brown piece of junk is presently hiding behind the garage here. All these barrels are something that the keykeeper brought home from his place of work. He's going to turn them into rain barrels and says he's going to sell them. But as I said, the big brown piece of junk is hiding behind the new garage. It presently has no brakes, which is a fun feature for any vehicle. Highly recommended if you want to add a little spice to your driving. And the 1997 Pontiac Bonneville that belongs to the keykeeper is presently in storage. It's got a little electrical problem. But let's go ahead and see how our Fix or Repair Daily is doing. Go ahead and open up the door here. You can see that the interior could stand some detailing. Other than that though, it's not really in too bad of a shape. But one thing I very definitely get the feeling about when I look inside this truck and around it, I don't think any of the previous owners really took the kind of care of it that they should have. Because there's a lot of plastic stuff that's broken, like this cover over the ashtray. There are also a ton of blown fuses in this truck. I've replaced most of them already. The most recent one we lost happened when Furhead took it to fill it with gas. He filled it with gas, started it up, and discovered that all of the instruments were no longer functional. Lost a 5-amp fuse, and that was the end of those. But enough of that. Got the key right here. So let's go ahead and see if I can get it started up, and you can all listen to it run. Before I do that, the radio needs a little bit of love. It plays just fine. I haven't tested the tape deck yet. I'll have to get a tape that I don't care about before I decide to do that. When you go to turn it off though, more often than not, the button will not stay in. So if you want to turn it off, you have to press it very gently. You have to be careful with it. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up with the new old engine in it. Looks like our instrument panel is still working, so that's good. The blower fan's running. I think I'll go ahead and turn that off. Then we'll crank her up. Despite what it looked like, it actually seems to be a very good engine, very strong running. Oh, we have headlights. Here it is all put back together again. Our battery terminals definitely need some love. And we've got a bit of a squeak, probably just the belt making noise. But all the good pulleys and accessories actually came from the other engine. The ones that were on there, according to the guy that did the swap, just weren't worth bothering with. He felt very strongly that the end result would be that they just burn off a belt, cause some other damage. And I can't say as though I disagree. One thing that's very curious about this truck, it was assembled in a Ford plant in Canada, and that in and of itself isn't too curious. But I think, according to the build sheet on this truck, it seems that there are Canadian-specific features on it. And yet the speedometer is primarily calibrated in miles per hour, or so it would appear, with kilometers per hour being the smaller scale. I can't prove it, but I'll post a link in the video description to show you what I mean. I'll take a copy of this truck's build sheet, and maybe some of you out there in the audience who are more knowledgeable about Ford products than I happen to be will be happy to clue me in. Now, for those of you who might get offended about my calling this a Fix or Repair Daily, you should know that I slag about equally on every make of vehicles. For example, over there is a cracked heads, every valve rattles, oil leaks, engine ticks pickup truck. And over here is a Dodge. I don't have a clever one for that. But maybe just saying Dodge, you know, that joke pretty much writes itself, I think, given some of my experience with Chrysler products. Oh! And before I go ahead and take this thing out on the open road and test it out, what do you get when you spell Ford backwards? Well, you get DROF. What does that stand for? Stands for driver returns on foot. I probably probably shouldn't find that as funny as I do, given that I'm one of those Luddites who absolutely refuses to carry a cell phone, because I won't find it nearly so funny if this thing happens to lay down and die. What I'm going to do today, though, I'm going to take that engine back to the junkyard, and as I said at the beginning of this video, I thought you all might like to come along for the ride, so buckle up and get ready, because it might be one heck of an adventure. Now, some of you out there in the viewing audience may have noticed that the shifting indicator in the instrument panel is not really doing the right thing. The truck is actually in park right now, but the indicator would suggest that it's right on the cusp of being in reverse. So one has to be a little bit careful when they put this truck into gear. That brake pedal's kind of soft, I don't mind telling you. All right, so let's see. Oops, I can't really do this one-handed. There's reverse, neutral. I think that's overdrive. And we're moving. We are definitely moving. There is some reason to suspect that there's a brake dragging on this truck and that the brakes in general may need service, but why let that stop me? Nothing like a little traffic accident to liven things up. The brakes do work. They'll stop it if it needs to be stopped. From the sound of things, I think my door might not be shut over there. I might have to pull over and fix that. The window's definitely all the way up. The passenger side power window works just fine. So is the radio. But the driver's side window is dead. Amazingly, both power mirrors work. We have our second windshield wiper arm back, which has to be a nice bonus. And even though it's held on by packaging tape and definitely needs a little bit of love, the passenger side power mirror works too, if you can believe it. Miracles never cease. In my reading and studying about this particular generation of Ford trucks, one thing that I've come across is the suggestion that the 4.6 liter modular V8 engine is really rather underpowered for this application. And I think Ford might have been aware of this, as this truck has 3.55 gearing in its rear end. I'll go ahead and let this van get by me here. Then we'll get back out on the highway, and I'll show you what I mean. Just blow the cobwebs out of this thing a little bit. It's sufficient, but it's definitely not as quick as the 4.8 liter engine in my Chevrolet pickup truck. The keykeeper had a trailer behind this thing recently with a lawnmower on it, and he said that the power output seemed pretty similar to the big brown piece of junk's 4.3 liter V6. I still have that wicked wind noise after I stopped and checked on the door, so I guess that mirror over there is just making that noise by virtue of the fact that it's kind of broken away from the framework of the door and it's probably allowing wind to get in behind it. I did notice upon looking at the rear view mirror, hello there Handycam, that the mirror itself actually seems to have some kind of a coating on it. You can see how everything behind me looks dark. I assure you it's nowhere near that dark outside. It's a little bit overcast today, but moderately sunny. And it almost looks like maybe a storm's coming in from behind or something, as far as that mirror's perspective is concerned. It does all right getting right down the road here. I mean, I'm running 60 mile an hour, just shy of 2,000 revolutions per minute on the tachometer. And all of our vital signs over here look pretty good. Not overheating, got good oil pressure. If anything, I'd say it's running a little cool. Cruise control works. See if I can get it set here. I probably really need two hands to do this. There it is. I haven't got my foot on the accelerator. I haven't blown any more fuses yet either, which has to be a good selling point. Okay, I think it's a pretty fair bet that the speedometer on this truck is definitely calibrated primarily in miles per hour. Also seems like it reads a little bit faster than the vehicle is actually moving. Okay, let's just see what this whole thing will do. Pulsation in it when you really put your foot in it. But I haven't broken it yet. Means this engine gets to keep thinking about tomorrow at least. And here's the junkyard where the engine for this truck came from. I just want you to check this place out. Look at all these cars. And there's some pretty nasty wrecks and stuff in here. But this is just one of those things, you know, all these cars are out here for just the whole world to see. And that's what makes these old country junkyards just so completely awesome to me. I'm sure a lot of you out there in the viewing audience who are into cars probably feel much the same way. You could walk around one of these places for the whole day and just come up with all manner of interesting parts. Just amazing what's out here. Well, time to see if anybody's home. See about giving this old engine back to them for the core. Just like they wanted. Looks like we made it. Definitely got some things that need to be addressed though. The brakes on this thing are going to need some attention. It needs tires. It needs an alignment. It needs some speakers because some of them appear to be blown. It just needs a fair bit of love. Then I think it could be fine. There was actually something I forgot to mention about this truck. Few people pointed it out in the comments on the last video, and that's the color-keyed interior. Now the headliner's a different color than the rest of it. It's kind of an off cream white color, something along those lines, but yeah, the interior on this truck is color-keyed and is pretty much an exact match to the exterior color. And of the people that commented about this, a number of them seem to imply that, you know, modern vehicles don't have color-keyed interiors, and I think that's true. Because I can't think of any modern vehicle off the top of my head that has a color-keyed interior like this truck or my Caprice station wagon does. Of course, I try very, very hard not to think about the sad, sorry, frankly tragic state of modern motoring and modern cars these days. Another thing I happen to forget, without which no video would be complete, is a test of the vehicle's horn, because you have to know, in case you come across a motorist on the road who doesn't know what they're doing and needs a stern horn of correction, whether or not your vehicle is horny. And yes, the horn does indeed work. All right, everybody. I made it through the entire afternoon driving this thing. It didn't leave me anywhere. I did, however, pop the instrument panel fuse again, but I think I know why. Go ahead and open up the door again here. The instrument panel on this truck continued to work just fine until I missed overdrive and shifted down into third. So I'm wondering if maybe there's not a chafed wire or some kind of a grounding problem, something along those lines that's causing the instrument panel fuse to blow, because otherwise all afternoon it worked perfectly without skipping a beat. As I said previously in the video, we do need an alignment, at least to some extent. They could probably stand to have some front tires. These are not very pretty. It needs some brake work. There's brakes that are grinding pretty bad, and they're only grinding worse after I drove it this afternoon, so it's going to merit taking a look at it. Take a look at this remote-mounted oil filter. I just now noticed it was there. Well, you wouldn't want to rear-end somebody in this thing. Crack that oil filter right off there. Of course, it's probably remotely mounted like that due to the four-wheel drive situation. But yeah, I think this truck's got a lot of promise. It needs some love, maybe even a lot of love, but I think it could really end up working out. So thank you for watching. But before you leave a comment, I did want to point something out. I found some more suggestion that this truck did in fact begin life as a Canadian specification model. Check that out. See that information plate right there? Especially the Canada Transport logo. There's something else. If we go down here a little bit, you'll see there's a plate here that says manufactured by Ford Motor Company, imported by J. Bernier, I imagine I'm bungling the pronunciation on that, Auto Incorporated. So I don't know where they imported it to or from, and I still find it very curious that the instrumentation appears to be in English measurements by default, but yeah, I think this truck began life intended for the Canadian market. I also think that the presence of daytime running lights is another very strong indication, because I don't think the United States market version of this truck has the daytime running lights like this one does. At least I can't remember off the top of my head ever having seen one equipped that way with the daytime running lights operating during daylight hours. So, alright, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you once again for watching, and feel free to leave a comment if you have one.